Welcome back to Close Up. New Hampshire's vibrant arts community is trying to navigate what comes next following major changes to the structure of how the state provides financial assistance at the community level through the Council on the Arts, money that previously helped set a steady financial foundation for cultural life in the Granite State. Here to explain what's going on is Sarah Stewart, the Commissioner of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. Commissioner, thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So this isn't something that necessarily makes the news a lot, but when funding gets taken away, people will start to notice. So let's start by talking about what is the Council on the Arts and what does it do?
Thank you so much. So the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts is part of the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. We're home to 5 divisions: the Division of Parks and Recreation, the Division of Forests and Lands, the Division of Historical Resources, the New Hampshire State Library, and the New Hampshire State Council on the Arts. And the mission of the Council on the Arts is to enhance the quality of life in New Hampshire by stimulating economic growth through the arts, investing in the creativity of students, making the arts accessible to underserved populations, and preserving heritage arts. And we've been doing this in New Hampshire since 1965, which makes it our 60th anniversary this year.
And what happened in this budget about how that gets funded and how does that change?
Yeah, so I've been in this role as commissioner for 7 years, and we've always worked closely with the administration and the State House to ensure a proper budget for all of our divisions. And recognizing that this budget year would be a little bit more challenging than recent years in the past, we worked really hard to make appropriate cuts and responsible cuts, as all agencies were asked to do. We went from a budget of about 1.4 million in general funds in the past couple of years to $150,000 moving forward in the next biennium. And that's enough to keep one staffer employed and maybe purchase some stamps and things like that. So we really have to reimagine how we can be impactful as a state agency. I'd like to share with your viewers that this means New Hampshire is ranked 56th in terms of public support for the arts behind every state and territory. We're right behind Guam.
There is a new tax credit system that the Senate put in place. How is that going to work in practice? The thought was maybe money will come in, but how do you see this working and when would that money get in?
I appreciate that. We're still trying to figure out the process that we're now going to embark on. The Senate recognized that a little creative thinking might go a long way, which is something that we pride ourselves on here in New Hampshire, and they established a fund. So the one staffer who we can employ will have to meet with the folks at DRA and probably the Department of Justice to figure out the exact minutia of how to receive corporate donations into the fund, which is appreciated in the spirit, but when it comes to the practical fundraising and finances, those dollars will not be able to achieve federal match. So we're basically leaving $1 million that has already been assigned to our state from the feds on the table, which is unfortunate because, of course, those are our tax dollars too, and now they'll be divided up among other states who can provide a general fund match.
So the idea is this is the National Endowment for the Arts, and they would be bringing this money in. There's no way to get them to view this tax credit system as a match fund.
No, it doesn't work.
And so when, I guess, then do you become a competitor if you're asking for money to come into this tax credit system with other nonprofits in the arts world?
So of course we don't want to engage in cannibalism when it comes to fundraising in New Hampshire. We want to see as much funding go directly to the artists, to the organizations, the nonprofits, the schools and hospitals. So as part of our learning about this program, we're going to be very careful to ensure that as much funding is funneled directly to these organizations. It's something we're going to have to navigate. This is a new scenario for us.
Is there any sense that maybe once this gets up and running, you could end up with more than $1.4 or $1.5 million?
It would be great. I think there is a limit to about $700,000 that we can raise using this tax credit, and that affords about $300,000 in the actual tax credit. So is there opportunity to raise that money? Of course. But like we've just discussed, I don't want to be soliciting funds that are otherwise directly valuable to the exact organizations that we're trying to help.
Yeah, we talked a lot about dollars and cents. What about impact? What's going to happen to the community theaters, these other small local arts groups that provide so much in terms of economic opportunity and tourism opportunity in the state? What happens now that this money goes away?
So on the one hand, a couple $1 million in grants doesn't seem like a huge amount when you're looking at the vast, big picture of the budget. But small dollar donations and grants to these local organizations have a huge impact. It allows a theater to lower ticket rates for a school trip. It allows artists in residence to have a stipend to go to a rural community in New Hampshire and teach West African drumming. And these are impactful in that we're bringing the arts to folks who otherwise might not be able to afford it or have access to it. So there's that impact. Then there's the economic impact. You know, one of my favorite lobbying stories was years ago when the arts were being debated. It was a pizza shop owner who made the most impactful case for the arts. And he said, my restaurant is full when the theater across the street has shows and people are coming to town. And so that's replicated with coffee shops and bookstores and even parking meters. The arts really do bring to life a community, and if you drive to rural towns in New Hampshire this summer, you'll see Summer Stock Theater, and people who are vacationing here buy their tickets and spend a lot of money enjoying the arts and culture.
The ripple effect here is very real, but what happens downstream from this in terms of, do these organizations, is there anyone who's going to sort of go out of business from this, or are people going to kind of move along as is?
So they're certainly not going to move along as is. I'd hate to think that there's organizations that will go out of business, but I think programs will be curtailed for sure. There are some programs that our state staff have run over the years that without staff, we're not going to be able to manage them. I'm thankful we have one staffer to facilitate any dollars that we can in the granting process, but you know, there's the Poetry Out Loud program. This past year, over 30 schools, that includes charter schools, private schools, public schools, home schools, students participated in a statewide poetry competition, and our champion went on to Washington, D.C. We won't have staff to manage a program like that, and people will feel that because these programs have been in place, like I said, for many, many years. This
happened, but this issue does have bipartisan support. This isn't necessarily a Republican or Democrat issue. What was the argument, though, that you made in saying, you know, people would say, well, why should we be funding this as a government?
Yeah. So it is the Granite State priority to support community and our heritage, and you can't avoid that. When you drive into a small town in New Hampshire, you're likely going to find a public library next to an opera house across from a village green with a gazebo. Our forefathers prioritized cultural activity, music, theater, and we can't escape that. It's in our legacy as a state, as Granite Staters. So when you're looking at where to invest, I think it's obvious that we should maintain the legacy of the cultural importance that we offer to our residents and to our visitors.
Now, you're a civil servant now, but you've been involved in the State House and political world for a long time. From your perspective, how did this end up becoming a target? Because for so long, this was just something that was sort of agreed upon that, hey, we're going to fund this. Why now do you think it's become something that's like, hey, we don't want to do this anymore?
Thanks. I think it happened sort of in a clandestine kind of way, in that we weren't given the opportunity to engage with the lawmakers who made this decision. There was a small group of lawmakers who are grappling with the budget, and I have great respect for the hard work that it takes to manage a New Hampshire state budget. But the fact that it was an amendment in the 11th hour in a small committee with no opportunity for constituents to explain the impact is a shame. And I think moving forward, while this is a setback for sure for the next biennium, I think we're ready to see a broader understanding of of what can be and what should be when we're putting our values into our state budget.
Yeah, the issue probably not going away, and we'll see it come back again in 2 years. Commissioner Stewart, thank you so much for joining us on Close Up, and good luck with the holiday weekend.
Thank you, Adam.
All right. And we'll be right back with Senator Jeanne Shaheen on a decision by the Pentagon to halt some weapons transfers to Ukraine. Stay with us.